What is up, everybody? Zack Rosenblatt here. Mike Kaye. We're at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. What the heck did we just watch? Like, you cover the freaking Jaguars. Like weird stuff. It's so hard not to curse because there's so much like crazy stuff that happened tonight. I covered the University of Arizona. I've seen a lot of crazy stuff with injuries where like a lot of guys in one position go down. I've never seen the combination of like weird play, injuries, bad plays, great plays. Like there's like the players that would make a terrible play would also make an amazing play. Like just everything that we have so much to talk about. But like, have you ever covered a game that was as weird as this one?
I don't think I've ever could describe a game as a Quentin Tarantino movie, but that's basically what this was. A lot of violence, a lot of losses. The body count was high. There were twists and turns.
Yeah.
I think Uma Thurman danced at one point. Like this was something else. Like I turned to one of the people from Eagles PR and I said, "I've never covered a game like this." I mean, look. I'm in my early 30s. It's not like I've been around the league for 30
Back in
years.
my day.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But, like, yeah, I've covered some insane games in Jacksonville. This was something else. I mean, look, this is a team, and I'm getting a lot of trash on Twitter. By the way, it's my 1-year anniversary on the beat.
Happy anniversary.
And I'm getting killed for apparent hot takes. This was a game that if they get down and they score at the end of the game, Carson Wentz, there's no argument. He's the most clutch guy. I mean, he's a clutch quarterback. I still think he's a clutch quarterback after what we saw.
We're going to go deep on Carson Wentz and the struggles you've been going with.
Right.
But yeah, that's the overlying.
Right, but
underlying
I think for this game, there's so much dichotomy in this entire game, right? Like you could say, the first half was the worst first half of Carson Wentz's career.
It was bad.
And then you could go on and say this fourth quarter might have been the best fourth quarter of his career. So... But that was the overarching.
That's like I was saying. Like, there's so many guys. Like, we'll go through some of them. There's so many guys that were just like awful, and then they would make an amazing play, and you're like, it's like they're reading our tweets or something. Like,
Nelson Aguilar was his own Dr. Seuss book. I don't know
that was the quickest one too. So we need to go to the crazy. So the final score is 24-20. By the way. Eagles lost.
Which I predicted 24-20.
The opposite, though.
The opposite, yes.
Yes.
Sorry.
But nobody could have possibly predicted this game in any shape or form. Like, even if somebody predicted the Falcons won 24-20, they don't deserve credit for it because, like, it's not like the score doesn't.
The context matters.
Yeah.
Yes.
But so the craziest thing we have to go through is the injuries because they are just bonkers. It started before the game. Dallas Goedert went through all of like the regular warm-ups. He went back into the locker room with the team. He came back out with, I believe, Zach Ertz and Mac Hollins, because there's like video of them like getting all hyped up. And then shortly thereafter, I believe it was John Clark from Embassy Sports Philadelphia had video of him going back into the locker room with the trainer. So everybody's freaking out because like, did he get hurt? Like, what happened? As it turns out, and they took a while to tell us because why do anything timely? He hurt his calf, which he had already hurt during the preseason, and it cost him all the preseason and most of training camp. And so he was basically out before they made it seem like he might get subbed in. Maybe he was there in case of emergency or something. I don't know. But he did not play. So that's before the game even starts. You lose one of your only 2 tight ends on the roster. So 12 personnel is out the window. I don't even think they used Andre Dillard as an extra tight end tonight, by the way. They did Vitae.
They did. He came in on one of the red zone plays.
Yeah. But like we thought maybe they go to that more. They didn't really. So that happens. Then the first half. So Carson Wentz gets hit pretty hard at one point when he throws a really bad interception. Deion Jones hits him in the chest. Carson said he just got the wind knocked out of him. Maybe he was just saying that. It didn't seem like that's all it was. He was pretty bad the rest of the half. But part of that might be attributed to what happened next. So I believe it was towards the end of the first quarter when Alshon Jeffrey all of a sudden just wasn't in the game anymore, and nobody knew why. Shortly after that, Deshaun Jackson left the game, went to the medical tent, went back into first he jogged around on the side, then he went back into the game, and then he left again, and he slammed his helmet down, and he didn't come back. He had a groin injury. Alshon Jeffrey had a calf injury. They were questionable return, and neither returned. Jason Kelsey left briefly at one point. Who else in the first half? Nelson Aguilar left for concussion protocol at one point in the first half.
So did Sidney Jones.
Sidney, was that first or I think it might have been third quarter.
No, I think
it all clumps together.
Yeah. Timmy Jernigan.
Timmy Jernigan, during halftime, apparently, which all of a sudden he was hurt. Nobody saw that happen. He hurt his foot. Didn't return. Second half, Corey Clement in the third quarter has a terrible punt fumble where he looked like he just let go of the ball. Kick return. Fumbled the ball away. The Falcons scored. And there's a lot of plays you can point to, but that was a pretty, that's not one that's being talked about that much. But if that doesn't happen, they might win this game, by the way. But he hurt his shoulder, and then he was in a sling in the locker room afterwards. So, did I hit everybody? I
think you got everyone.
That's an insane laundry list. And the Eagles lost their two best receivers before halftime, before either of them had a single target. So they were down to 3 receivers and 1 tight end the entire game. Mac Hollins played the most snaps of his career for sure. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside had to play a lot. And you could tell that there was some communication issues, especially between Carson and J.J., which I understand was a rookie. They didn't plan to play him this much yet. Mac Hollins, if you think about it, he didn't play at all in training camp. So we both were critical of the way the Eagles played. There was a lot of bad things that happened, and I understand the injuries. There's other stuff that happened, but the injury part, certainly is a part of this. Sure. When you look back and evaluate this game, they were in insane circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, this was, it's irrational to not. I think I give him a C. I gave Carson Wentz a C for the game.
He bumped it up in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, the 2 turnovers were bad, and he was just terrible in the first half. But again, you also have to consider the circumstance. I gave him a C+. I'm sorry.
And by the way, the offensive line was awful.
Yeah, the offensive line was bad. This was not a good game for anyone. Really, no one had a good game. There wasn't,
or no one had a great game at least.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you just wanted to evaluate Carson Wentz's second half, Carson Wentz had probably a B+ second half. If you wanted to evaluate his first half, I would have given him probably a D-. It was bad. And when you factor in his weapons, listen, we book this group as one of the deepest weapon groups in the league. I mean, he's got a weapons gallery for days. But when you aren't able to game plan, it puts you at a disadvantage. Obviously, losing 12 personnel. I got into an argument with a media member that I will not mention on the podcast, because I said when Goddard's out, that automatically that limits you significantly in the passing game. And the argument against that was, well, you don't think they've thought about that when they only have 2 guys? Well, yeah, but what happens when the next shoe drops?
It wasn't only that they lost Goddard, too.
Right.
They lost the other 2 guys. So
right. So
they removed any of their plans.
Right. So when you set yourself up like that, it hurts. I mean, so one, you're without 12 personnel. And then, on top of that, you're losing your best 2 wide receivers. So you're thin already. Do I think it was a mistake to not bring up Alex Ellis? Would Alex Ellis have been talented enough to fill the void? No.
Yeah.
But
he doesn't change this game for them.
Right.
It helps.
But he is a guy to fill in 12 personnel, so you're not as one-dimensional and you don't just use 11 personnel throughout the game. It gives you other looks. He knows the playbook. He knows the offense. Whatever. So what I'll say is this. Carson Wentz willed this team in the fourth quarter. He deserves a ton of praise for that. He also deserves a ton of criticism for the first half. I know everybody's going to say, well, what did you expect with Alshon and Deshaun and Goddard out? That happens, man. Those are astronomical, pregame.
Extreme situation, for sure.
They're extreme situations, but if you want to keep putting a guy in an elite box, you have to properly hold him to a higher standard. He still had Zack, who's a Pro Bowl tight end. He still had Nelson Aguilar, who he has tons of chemistry with. He still had Darren Sproles, who's played with him his entire career. He still had his full offensive line outside of 3 snaps when Jason Peters went down. At some point, Carson, who does elevate the talent around him, needed to do that. He just got off to a late start, and it's fair to criticize that.
If everybody wants him, if everybody wants to say that he's above Dak Prescott, no question about it, he has to prove that he can do what Dak can't, which Dak can't play well when Ezekiel Elliott's not there, when Amari Cooper wasn't there, or when Des Bryant wasn't healthy. Carson Wentz lost all of his guys tonight. So you have to bounce. If you want to be elite, if you want to be Tom Brady level of quarterback, Tom Brady's made a lot of bad receivers look good over the course of his career.
So was Aaron Rodgers.
Yes, like guys like that, you make the guys right. Like this was a tough situation, and you asked Carson a great question about like the conversations they have on the sideline when all your plans are out the window, and you have two receivers in the game that probably shouldn't even be playing. So like, how do you deal with that? Like clearly Carson was on a different page, and some of the decisions were just baffling still. Maybe there was I think there was clearly some communication issues on a few, but the first interception was really bad, and the second one was just, it looked like he was targeting Desmond Trufant, who was like kneeled. I've never seen anything like it. He was like, he had fallen or something.
He was falling backwards.
And he was kneeling on the ground, and it just went into his chest. And those were really bad. But then, like we were saying, like there's the dichotomy of, then you also saw some of the best throws he's ever made in his career. The one to Mac Hollins where he was like being tackled. Mm-hmm. It was like a classic Carson Wentz play, and he completed an 18-yard pass on fourth down. It set them up to get into scoring range, and then he eventually closed it out with the 1-yard touchdown run. And then he did his first Gronk spike ever, and he almost fell.
I thought he was gone.
It was a moment of levity in an insane game.
The way he fell, I thought he injured himself. And I was like, wow.
Well, by the way, I think I forgot to mention that. So he did leave for concussion protocol in the first half.
Yep.
And he expressed some frustration about the way it was like handled. Not that it
he
happened, but because they made him wait, and then they made him go into the tent. So Josh McCown came in. He did a pretty good job moving the offense actually, and commenced the jokes of like, as soon as he came in, it was like, oh, they're going to win the Super Bowl now, aren't they?
But that's the thing too, is Josh McCown works with the backup, so he had
that's a good point, actually.
some knowledge of the guys.
Mac,
But he did a good job of getting the ball out quickly. It wasn't like he struggled, and so I think like that's what you have to. I'm not saying Josh McCown's better than Carson Wentz. I'm not saying that.
Well, he went in and did the job.
Yeah, he did the job, and Carson took some time to do the job. And you know what? You can say. We'll talk about the defense in a second.
Yeah.
But everybody who watched this game knows that 54-yard touchdown to Julio Jones is what clinched it for the Falcons. Maybe that's not the case if Carson Wentz doesn't throw an interception after getting good field position. Maybe that's, you know what I mean? Like, this is a team loss. And I think that when you're looking at team losses, you have to look at individuals and say, hey, you know what? Nelson Aguilar's getting killed for dropping that wide open pass down the Understandably. He also made a great play on the ball.
That's what you're saying. That's why this game is like insane to evaluate.
Well, what's weird is he had two moments like that. So he had the drop in the back of the end zone. I thought it was a little high to him when I first saw it live. And then he comes back and makes that great catch in the end zone for the first
touchdown. Yeah, that was a great throw too.
Right. I thought that was Wentz's best throw of the night, honestly.
Third quarter, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But then he does the same thing later on in the game. I think that speaks to his mental toughness. I think it speaks to Carson Wentz's leadership that he keeps going back to him. But, like, that happens. Zach Ertz is going to get killed for not gaining, like, 3 inches. You know what I mean? Like, it's...
Zach Ertz, he handles, losses and all that stuff as well as anyone. He was really emotional locker room. He was like, I take full responsibility for it, and I feel like I let the team down. And there's funny. There's nobody will say a bad thing on Eagles Twitter about Zach Ertz. Or the flip side, everybody is quick to be mad about Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah.
Zach Ertz, he played a pretty good game. He was the only reliable target that Carson had in reality. Because Nelson. Okay, we should talk about that drop, by the way. So he was wide open. No, not wide open. He burned the corner that was covering him. I didn't see the corner that was covering
I think the corner thought that he had.
It was on the Eagles' final drive, and it would have been a 60-yard touchdown if he catches it, and it went through his hands. He said. So somebody asked him, were you blinded by the light? And he said yes, but that's not an excuse. We still practiced that. I still had to reel that in. But he kept on trying to move forward and not talk about that catch. But that's kind of how he explained what that's one of the worst drops I've seen live.
It was brutal.
If I'm being honest.
It was, I covered the Jaguars, so I've seen a lot
of it. But not only the thing itself, but when it happened and the importance of it too.
Yeah, I mean, it was brutal, and Zach sits next to me in the press box. He knows, if I see something in advance, I'll call it, or if I see a guy wide open, I'll say wide open, whatever. But I remember saying, before I saw Nelson streaking down the field, and I said, "Oh my God, he's wide open."
On the money throw.
On the money throw. That was if that
Carson looked great that whole drive.
Yeah, if that connects, you could argue that was the best throw he made all game. But, yeah, just a brutal drive. I mean, and Nelson has had those concentration errors in the past, and it's fair to criticize him. I mean, right? Like, it's fair to criticize him.
I mean, yeah. I mean, Nelson drops were the biggest issue for him those first 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And, if anybody you can believe is going to be good at, like, moving on from his struggles, it's him. And 2 plays later, Carson Wentz went right. I mean, I don't know if he had many other options, to be honest, but he went right to him. It was a really good catch. It was a really good throw. It was in coverage, 44 yards. Put them in position to get to the point where the Zack play happened on 4th down. They didn't ultimately convert it, but... So let's switch over to defense. There's a lot. It's another thing where there's like so many like layers to talk about this because there's so much great, good, bad, and terrible that we saw out there. Like to start with the great, I thought until like a moment later in the game, Jim Schwartz was calling an awesome game.
Yes,
he was doing blitzes, which kind of was an issue later with one of the plays, but he was calling blitzes, which he just doesn't, which fans are always calling him to do. He was doing the sticks defense when he needed to, and it worked. I mean, they were in this game because the defense was shutting them down. They had 3 interceptions: 1 Darby, 1 Jones, 1 Nate Gary. Whitesnake, who intercepted in the end zone, and for some reason decided he wanted to try and run it out. Luckily, somebody tripped him up before he could do that. Everybody's like, "What are you doing?" But it was a cool moment for him. But so you have that, and then you have the flip side of that where they played Ronald Darby way too much. He clearly is not like fully back.
Yeah, Darby.
So the Falcons were targeting him. There was a stretch in the first half where 3 deep balls in a row where they targeted him, and 2 of them would have been touchdowns if Matt Ryan didn't overthrow him, and the third one was a touchdown. Mm-hmm. And then it was less his fault on this one, but he was targeted on one of the Julio Jones touchdowns in the end zone, where it was kind of a long time, but you still have to like.
Yeah, they had all day.
That was a tougher one, but he still was. But the point being, he was covering him again. He just should not have gotten those snaps. I just didn't get it, and he did have the interception, but so I think that was a bad call by Jim Schwartz, and he deserves criticism for that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Corey Unlin also.
And Corey Unlin too. I mean, he's a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, look, Darby, a knee injury's tough, and Darby's come back from an ACL injury very quickly. That said, if he's going to be out there, you have to trust him, and he has to do the job. But he, like you said, he clearly doesn't.
And the Falcons knew it.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, they did the right thing. Right? I mean, they targeted him downfield, and it worked. Darby was burned quite a bit in this game, and I think. Rasul had some really nice moments against Julio, but he also had some blunders.
Yeah.
Sidney had some blunders. By the way, Sidney Jones, Ronald Darby, and Avonte Maddox started at corner today.
Yes, whereas Rasul started last week. But they subbed quicker this time, though. Second quarter, I believe.
Darby did a really good job on Julio. He had 2 pass breakups.
Julio is going to get his.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the way it is. You talked about how blitzing kind of came back to bite him later in the.
So talk about the play where it really came back to bite them.
So it was what was it 4th and 3?
I'll pull it up. Just talk about the play. I'll find what the situation was.
So they went all out. I don't hate that call at all.
Yeah, I mean it's a risky call. Like you know what you're.
Yeah, you don't think you're going to give up a 54-yard touchdown, but
fourth quarter. Here we go. So it was 4th and 3. Atlanta on their own 46. Doesn't say how much time was left.
When he scored, it was 2:10 left in the game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Here, 2:20. So they went all out blitz. Matt Ryan threw it short to left to Julio, who then took it all the way because there's no one to stop him.
So I buy the logic of it because Matt Ryan had made several errors throwing the football.
Matt Ryan looked really bad.
Yeah, he was not very good in this game. This is the second week in a row.
Yeah, might have lost it.
I mean, look, millisecond later, if that throw is maybe a millisecond later, it's probably an incompletion or it's a tackle. It's just one of those things. When you gamble like that, you're going to either
Catching runs like that are tough to swallow.
Yeah, I mean the Eagles tackling, especially in the secondary, has been terrible.
So there's another guy in the secondary we have to talk about. We both have been critical of him, and we still need to continue to be critical of him because he's just not a good football player.
Listen, Greg James only played one snap.
Anderson Dejo. So on the Calvin Ridley touchdown, he did not help Ronald Darby at all.
Yeah, I mean
he's not athletic. He's not good in pass coverage. So he's one of those guys where I said they had terrible plays and then would randomly have a good one. He had a really important sack in the fourth quarter. Yeah, that forced the Falcons to punt it. And it's like, oh, Anderson Dejo, he did something. But cut him and keep the fourth. Just do it.
So
I don't know who they put there.
So I'm not going to give Zendejo a lot of credit for the sack.
Yeah, I mean, it was the play call.
Yeah, they did a delayed blitz. He went up the middle.
That was Schwartz on that.
I will say Zendejo ran at Ryan like a bat out of hell. Like that was a jarring hit.
Well, because that's what Zendejo's game is. He has big hits, and it kind of distracts you from that he's not good at anything else.
Right. You want to keep his feet on the ground.
Yeah. But they don't play Cyprian at all.
Yeah, it's a very weird.
Why is he on the team? I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't understand. If you kept him on the team to play special teams,
how he really likes him as a guy. I don't know.
Well, maybe it's that they want to see how Cyprian does for the first few weeks, and then if he falters, then you handle that. Excuse me.
It is almost 2 a.m.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
That's fine.
But
we forgive you. It's your 1-year anniversary.
Yeah, the one blitz that was very, very special. There was a blitz, I think it was in the third quarter. Malcolm Jenkins waited till the absolute last second and basically stunted and came around the corner through the middle. I guess that would have been against the right guard. And just went up the middle and sacked Matt Ryan. It was really impressive. He almost sacked Matt Ryan, but he forced an interception. I think that was the Darby one. So, look, the good and the bad. I mean, I think the secondary and this linebacker group is hit or miss. I think the defensive line has gotten a lot of pressure. They just haven't finished. Josh Sweat did some nice things.
They played him inside a few times.
And Vinny Curry did some nice things.
I guess once Jernigan got hurt, maybe that's why it necessitated Sweat doing that. Honestly, we didn't realize that. Wonder what they're going to do at defensive tackle now. By the way,
Akeem Spence got a few snaps. Again, this is not ideal. They're dealing with a ton of injuries right now. I don't really think they are that deep on the defensive line. They have bodies, but I don't think they're as talented.
It's an issue.
Well, that's something I want to talk about. So you talk about the wide receiver group and the tight end group, and you talk about the defensive line groups, and those are supposed to be the strengths, and those are supposed to be the deep groups. The issue is a lot of the deepness or the depth to those groups is potential. So to me, it's interesting when people say, oh, well, Carson didn't have any weapons. Oh, they don't have any depth on the defensive line. But in the same breath, say, wow, there's a lot of talent there.
I know.
So I think it's like a justification thing, and I don't know if it's that we shouldn't laud these groups as much as we probably did.
Yeah, I mean, everybody was hyping the depth as much as anything.
Right. But when you look at other teams in the league, they don't have the bodies that can technically play or have the upside to play like the Eagles do.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what the solution is. It's not a criticism of the players. It's not a criticism of the depth. I don't know where you go from here, what you need to do to correct it, because you can't just trade for a bunch of star players. And some of these guys you've heavily invested in. So it's a matter of figuring out what you can do with the parts you have. And when you have the amount of injuries that the Eagles have, I don't know if any of these are long-term.
Yeah, that's the tough part to look at.
Here's the thing. If Alshon Jeffrey is out, look, Deshaun Jackson was great week one. If Alshon Jeffrey is out for a prolonged period of time, that takes away a lot of advantage.
Just based on, this is just being a doctor in the locker room and looking at, body language and how they're moving around, I would say Deshaun had a tough time walking around, and Alshon seemed like he was walking around okay. So this is not, I have no information here. This is just, I'm going to try and research this and find out some more stuff tomorrow. But my guess would be Deshaun is less likely to pay than Alshon. That's a pure guess. So take with that what you will. We don't know how serious. Dallas Goedert's was serious enough that it seems like they knew right away that he wasn't going to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, look, they play a Detroit team next week that struggled to put up points.
Luckily, it's a bad team.
I don't think they're a very well-coached team. They won today against the Chargers, who are my Super Bowl pick.
Yeah, so the Chargers are banged up like the Eagles are.
Right. So, look, this team has dealt with this type of adversity, like, countless times. And they are mentally tough. The fact that they were still in this game when they should have been blown out probably by 30 points.
Says a lot about Doug.
Yeah, I think it says a lot about Doug. I think Doug's play calling was mediocre or awful, honestly, in the first quarter. I think the scripted...
But, it was as tough for him as the players to figure out what they were going to do, though.
You know what's interesting to me? Andy Reid, who Peterson's a disciple of, Andy Reid was so good at scripting plays.
Oh, yeah, there's slow starts still.
Right. So, but that's the thing. Andy Reid was known for the fast starts.
Yeah.
But Doug struggles with that. So I'm wondering if that's the weakness. Because in-game, he's one of the better adjusters.
Yeah, he's really good at adjusting, but he's adjusting to his mistakes in the beginning.
Right. It's almost like, hey, let's stick
It's good that he has that skill, by the way. But.
Right. Let me stick my toe in the water to feel if it's cold or not. Oh, great, it's warm. I should probably... oh, great, it's cold. I should probably turn the heater on. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's like he tests things to see if they work, as opposed to knowing they're going to work. That seems to be what the issue, part of what the issue is. Doug said about Carson's struggles early on in the game. He said, I try to design plays to get the ball out quickly, and eventually you have to take shots downfield. Well, that's great, but then why not design plays initially that take advantage of your deep threats, take advantage of the fact that you're going to have to throw downfield anyway. Why not take those shots early when you try to figure... It's great to establish a rhythm and everything, but if you can open up the game with a game-breaking play, it's called a game-breaking play for a reason.
Yeah. So we have to try to look ahead here. It's hard just because we don't know the severity of these injuries. Mm-hmm. But, so you have to factor in a few things. One, you have Kamu Grugier-Hill and Nate Sudfeld still out. And Sudfeld, even if he was healthy, wouldn't be active anyway, so that's one inactive guy already. Alshon Jeffrey, Dallas Goedert, Deshaun Jackson, Timmy Jernigan, Corey Clement. It's like 5 more guys.
So that's all 7 right there, realistically.
So the question becomes, how many or any of them are injured enough to not play for a while? So injured reserve possibility. Maybe Clement... just looking at how he's in a sling already, I don't know. That's just a pure guess. I'm just trying to figure out what they're going to do with this roster now.
You have 53 spots.
You need to bring up a tight end or a receiver, if not both. And you would think Greg Ward or Alex Ellis is on this roster this week. So who do you cut at that point? Because you can't cut Akeem Smith because you just lost Timmy Jernigan. Maybe you cut one of those safeties, Cyprian. I don't know where you find the space.
Yeah, I mean...
They're in a weird spot right now. It's
difficult. So they have a couple of superficial players on their... or positions. So they have a 6th defensive end.
They could put Mailata on IR, by the way.
Yeah, they have a 6th defensive end. They have 10 offensive linemen. They have... They have a 5th safety.
They have 5 linebackers, too. So if Camus coming back soon, maybe you... Because they still didn't play LJ Ford on defense, by the way.
Yeah, keep an eye on that.
Yeah. What was it?
Seriously.
So maybe Sharif Miller stubs his toe this week or something?
I think, well, for one, I think you hit the nail on the head. Jordan Mailata is going to
seems like, it doesn't even seem like he's close to coming back.
Yeah, it's time.
He's not going to... You can't play him. The offensive line was bad without him tonight.
Well, and if it's not severe, but if it's a lingering issue, you're better off kind of preserving.
Let it heal, yeah.
Yeah, don't force it back. I mean, he's also a guy that's not as familiar with the game, so you don't want him to strain himself or whatever. Matt Pryor, I don't know what they see in him other than he's big, and I'm not trying to criticize him. I'm just saying based on...
You just literally don't know what they see.
Yeah, I don't. That's somebody who I could see them taking the risk of putting on the waiver wire.
But by the way, speaking of Pryor, so he was inactive today, and there was a moment where Jason Kelsey, we didn't know if he was hurt or serious or not. So there was no obvious solution to how they solved that. So if Isaac Seumalo moves to center, Vitai's never played left guard before.
Mm-hmm.
So who are you playing at left guard? They don't have anybody. Andre Dillard? Like, I don't even know. I guess they would have put Vaitai there, but you're putting a guy. So then you're getting worse at two positions, which sounded like it wasn't a great position. So all of a sudden, this depth doesn't look as good as.
Well, these injuries, create massive issues. You got 2 defensive ends on the inactive list. You have 3 offensive linemen. Like, at some point, you're going to have to make some tough decisions, and they've prolonged those tough decisions. But I think, when you look at those extra offensive linemen, if you're not going to play Matt Pryor. If the plan is not to, best case scenario, not to play Matt Pryor for 16 games.
Then why is he on the team? Yeah.
Right.
So okay, let's, looking ahead. So if you had to say, like, what are like the top 3 positions, 1 to 3, that they need to address this week? Whether it's via trade, free agent signing, or calling a guy up from the practice squad.
Okay. Tight end. But I don't know if Alex Ellis cuts it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's one of those. But I don't know if there's really a guy on the free agency.
I know that's a tough position you're in. Or is Josh Perkins good enough to come up here? I don't know.
Clearly not.
Yeah.
I think Alex Ellis will be the guy that gets elevated. And then I think, you look at...
Well, they kind of need a receiver. If Alshon and Deshaun are out, which we don't know, like in that scenario, they would kind of need to bring up Greg Ward.
Yeah, I think Greg Ward would be the guy, unless it was Deshaun that went down.
Yeah,
and then I could see them bringing up Marcus Green.
True, yeah.
Who is a really interesting cat. It was injured during the preseason, but
didn't help them with the scouting enough today, I guess.
Clearly has really good speed.
Yeah, he was a draft pick, wasn't he?
Yep, 6th round pick of these Atlanta Falcons. But again, like, I don't think anybody on the practice squad is a sure fit.
That's the thing. Like, bringing these guys up doesn't mean they're going to actually help. Like, they're on the practice squad for a reason.
Right. Craig James played a whiff. Like maybe 2 snaps on defense. Yeah. The first 2 defensive snaps of his life.
Also, they might have only 3 healthy running backs now.
Well, that I'm not as worried
about. I know, I'm not worried about it either. Because Sproles barely even played on offense today.
Right. He didn't play till it actually mattered.
Running backs,
I thought it was important that he was in there when it mattered, but when you...
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't use him more as, like, splitting him out wide or whatever.
Right. Well, he played in the slot a little bit. Yeah,
By the way, so the running backs didn't put up great numbers. I would say a lot of that had to do with the blocking. There wasn't really much room to work with.
Well, they didn't really go
And by the way, it seems like Jordan Howard sneakily snuck into being like the number one fans get mad about. He's not getting the ball enough guy. Fans are getting really mad that he had the same amount of carries as Sanders at like halftime, and everybody was flipping out. I don't know what they thought he was going to do today.
I mean, they were using him like he was Ronnie Brown.
He had a nice catch actually.
Yeah, he did.
All right, but so let's look ahead now. So how do you feel about this team now going into? I know the question of the injuries kind of makes it hard to even look ahead, but like, how are you feeling going into week 3 against the Lions?
Look, they're going to be home. I think that game's going to be one of those ones where it's going to be close for a little while and the Eagles separate themselves. I think Carson Wentz getting this time with those weapons
for a whole week,
could help. I think it's a lesson in, hey, you have to prepare some of these guys for step-up opportunities. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside looked like he had never been on a football field.
Matt Collins was okay.
He was okay. He had some communication errors, too.
He did, but he at least like knew where to be and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big key is this offense has become so good in 12 personnel, you have to be able to at least have that look. So you got to figure out the tight end position. And then I think from there, you have to look at the wide receiver. I mean, tight end wide receiver, that's going to be the thing. But I think they can win against the Lions with Zack Ertz, Nelson Aguilar, Darren Sproles, what have you. I think that's doable.
Yeah.
Eventually, this team is going to have to establish the run in a major way.
Like they haven't had it all these first 2 weeks.
Well, they got away from the run the first half. And I mean, that's fine, whatever. But
when you lose all your receivers.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because they probably thought they'd be too predictable if they kept running,
Although Doug tends to avoid the run in general when he can. So.
Yeah, well, that's an Andy Reid thing.
That's true.
But yeah.
And nothing makes the Eagles fans more mad than when you don't run the football.
Right.
It's like the funniest dichotomy because most teams, most fan bases, you think they want them to pass the ball all the time,
Right. So I'll close it out with this because I feel like I'm talking in circles.
No,
but Carson Wentz needs to establish his chemistry with everybody. Like, this needs to be
not just Zack Ertz, not just Deshaun Jackson. Yeah,
and he did a good job of spreading the ball in this game. We should give him credit.
To all 4 receivers.
Well, he had 7 different targets.
Yeah,
you know, and you know, I think Nelson Aguilar sometimes struggles when he does really well when he doesn't have to be the guy. And I think when he becomes the guy, sometimes he gets either overexcited or he has those concentration issues. He's a guy that needs to be part of an offense and not be the offense. And I think if he gets a week under his belt of, hey, you know, I don't have to be the focal point, but I do need to step up my game, I think he can be successful. I think this Lions team, outside of Darius Slay and, you know, some other guys on defense.
They got Trey Flowers, right?
Yeah, Trey Flowers is good.
Yeah.
But, like, he's not, like, a game changer, in
my
opinion. So, look, the Lions don't have a bad defense. They have a good defense, but I think the Eagles can make plays against them. I don't trust the Lions' offense.
I don't think the Lions are very good, though. I've learned my lesson. I will no longer be predicting the Eagles to blow teams out because I'm just wrong every time. So.
Oh, by the way, you know the whole reason all this happened is because Zack had to call out the Falcons about
Dirty Bird. If the Eagles
what a lovely video.
If the Eagles had won this game, I was literally just gonna like dramatically read the lyrics to this song, The Dirty Bird. And they played it during the game, by the way. And after that point, the Eagles started playing better. So it was a terrible song with the famous Atlanta rapper Bone Crusher, who famously sang the song Never Scared from 2003. You remember that song?
No.
Oh, if you heard it, you would remember. It was a classic back then. But that was his last and only hit. I mean, maybe he's bigger in Atlanta now. Anyway, the point being, this is like, hype videos are almost never good, like when they come up with a song with them. And this one's just like so corny.
I mean, it was almost like they were like, "Hey, look, here's an empty lot. Enjoy yourselves."
Yeah. Well, the dancers were just so bad in the background, and they just got roasted immediately on Twitter. They took it down within a couple hours, and for some reason it was still showing up on my phone. So I did the Lord's work, recorded it, and then wrote down the lyrics, and it was one of my most well-received pieces I've ever written.
I don't know what that says about you. Anyway.
2 a.m, baby.
We have just passed the 2 o'clock mark.
Anyway, so happy anniversary, Mike. It's been great having you a part of the show.
Oh, thank you. Just a part. Just a part.
Co-host.
What I will say is this. So my first game covering this team was on the road against an NFC South team and a loss, and everyone panicked. The Eagles ended up turning things around and making the playoffs, getting a playoff win. I feel much better about this team than I did last year's team.
Yeah.
So let's see how far they can take it. I think this is a very talented team. I think they're a very flawed team, but a very talented one.
More flawed than maybe anyone wanted to admit.
But talent typically wins out over your flaws when the flaws come early. This team's 1-1. Frankly, the Falcons need this game way more than the Eagles.
Yeah, if they go 0-2, you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, especially
that division's weird, actually.
Well, especially with Drew Brees.
Yeah, so maybe if you go 0-2, you're okay in that division. Honestly.
Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys are 2-0. The Eagles are 1-1.
Easy schedule.
They have an easy schedule. I mean, they're starting off with
They play another bad team.
They play the Dolphins.
My
God.
God.
So that's a win.
So that's part of it. So the Eagles can't really afford to fall in too big of a hole when you head into, they have a stretch in the middle of the season that's pretty tough. With road trips.
I mean, this next game against the Lions, that's a need game this game was for the Falcons.
Yeah.
And I know if Eagles fans want home field advantage, the Eagles want home field advantage. But I think this is the type of team, when you look at what they were able to do against the Falcons with all that adversity, that can win on the road as well. So I think this is a playoff team. I don't think any of us think any differently after that. They got to recalibrate what's going on here. They got to figure out how they can start off quickly, because this has been a problem for 2 years. This is not even just a trend anymore. It's like
a curse.
A curse. And I think that's fair. I think the only time they really started off fast was the Colts game week 3 last year.
Yeah. So people still haven't seemed to learn that I'm sarcastic on Twitter, and so I tweeted jokingly that I haven't looked this up, but I'm pretty sure the last time they scored in the first quarter was 10 years ago. Everybody's like, no, they did it last year.
They did against the Colts.
But the point being, it feels like it's been forever, and for our own sake, it would be nice for the Eagles just to like come out and have a really good win. You know, we haven't had one of those in a long time. Maybe one or two of them since you've been on this beat, where they just like win a game like unquestionably, right? Like the Giants game, like the first Giants game last year, maybe.
That
like we did. So 2017, they had it easy. They were blowing everybody out. Like Matt and Elliott, they had the easiest life that year.
I think the Giants game and then the Week 17 game.
But that one.
Yeah. That story was filed by
we knew.
Through the third.
Yeah, we were planning for the playoffs and all that. All right, but we'll end on that note. If you guys have made it this far, make sure you wish Mike a happy anniversary for the 1 year he's been with us.
What a year! What a year!
And it's only getting started for year 2. I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's really late. Okay. Thanks for listening. All write comments on this, and we'll read your comments this week. We'll do our next pod probably on Tuesday. Thanks for listening to this crazy pod at the end of a crazy night at the end of a crazy